Genshin is a game about dealing as much damage as you possibly can in the shortest amount of window with the most amount of consistency. Well, at least that's how it is if you're playing like the end game where Abyss is pretty much a damage check and they try to stall you as much as you can, but whatever. Although damage is the focus of the game, why aren't hypercarries like good? Because when you think about hypercarries, you think, oh man, they're the flashy, big numbers kinds of character. But when you actually look at like strong teams, you realize that hypercarries don't really have a place in them. So I'll try to go over the few reasons I've at least found to why hypercarries are really just not that good in general. And yeah. So first of all, hypercarries are very, very inflexible. As they're the main source of damage, they're the character that you want to be on field almost all of the time if they're dealing damage. Now you could switch them out early, but that means you have a lot less damage from your hypercarry, but because your hypercarry is dealing most of your damage, you still lose damage in general. It's also a waste of energy if your hypercarry is a burst hypercarry, which requires them to use their elemental burst, such as Ito, Shao, yeah. And especially if their energy cost is like 70 plus or even 80, yikes, that's a waste of energy. Now, the benefit is that supports are able to refresh their buffs, their field presence, etc. You could refresh Oz, you can, you know, yeah, you can refresh Bennett buff. You can even battery your supports. That way, they have energy for the next rotation. Now there is also a longer downtime for your hypercarry because well, you just ended their DPS rotation. So even if you end your rotation, your damage rotation, it doesn't shorten your cooldowns. If you have a 20-second burst or elemental skill cooldown and you spend your total of 15-second uptime and you cut it down to 10, you have like 10 seconds of downtime. So yeah. Now you could opt to not switch out your hypercarry. Now your hypercarry does deal more damage, but the problem is their damage output falls off a cliff because your supports are offline and they can't really enable your hypercarry to deal more damage. Now, you could have hypercarries that like don't rely on supports, but if you have hypercarries that don't rely on supports, they have a higher power floor, but they have a lower power ceiling because they can't really be supported by other supports. The supports in the team can usually be starved of energy because the hypercarry is hogging on-field energy gain. As you know, the character on the field that catches particles usually gets the most amount of energy. So yeah. Now another inflexible part of the hypercarry is that teams are built around the hypercarry. Usually you're locked into one kind of elemental reaction and you're limited in team compositions from characters and gear. Someone like Hu Tao is always going to be locked into Vaporize. Someone like Ito is not going to do anything outside of... you don't do reactions with them. Someone like Shao, you don't do reactions with them. Someone like Alhaitham, I don't think you're gonna really play him outside of Aggravate or Bloom or whatnot. No one will play Burn Alhaitham. Like, for example, if you're running Ayaka, you never run Bennett. You never run Bennett. I don't care if you have a C5 Bennett. You never run Bennett with Ayaka. For the risk of melting and removing the cryo application. Now with the team composition characters and gear, I went over a little bit of that, but yeah. Hypercarries almost often require one specific character and you're left with only 2 slots of utility, It's like the move what's it called? The 3 move slot syndrome or 2 move slot syndrome for like Pokemon, you know? I can think of Aegislash. So you get Swords Dance, and then you get King's Shield, and then you're only limited to like 2 other move slots for like what? Sacred Sword, Shadow Claw, Shadow Sneak, and it's like you lose a lot of like utility, and you're requiring those two character slots for Genshin to like do everything from like maybe battery, energy, healing, whatnot. Now, another problem is that dedicated support characters locked to hypercarries or certain archetypes, yeah, they're locked to that archetype. Yeah, I've already gone through this so many times, but okay, Faruzan is not going to be used outside of Animo. Goro is not going to be used outside of Geo or defense scaling characters. I can't think of anyone else. There's probably one more, but like I can't. Sara, but like no one uses Sara. Now with the gear, it's very restricting because most of the damage is coming from your hypercarry. They need incredibly high quality artifacts with high crit rate and scaling stats, making your hypercarry really really hard to gear because most of the time they're going to be dealing the most damage, and you want as much damage as possible from them. And if you can't get them from the supports, of course you need your hypercarry to do most of it. And we all know how painful it is to gear characters because if you want the perfect substats, even if you want like a 4 set, it takes months. And even worse, gear might not be transferable depending on the archetype it's used on. As you all know, fucking no one's gonna use Husk outside of Ito. Like, look, no one's using clam set. No one's using clam set. Oh, but Kokomi uses clam set. Yeah, that's literally one character out of what, 60 characters. You're only gearing like 1/60th, 1 freaking 60th of the character of the game roster. Like, oh, same thing with Husk. Oh, uh, you're gearing one character per 30 characters, dude. Like, what? How many characters? There's 60 characters in the game, right? Something like that. Well, you're only gonna use Husk on Noel and Ito. And that, what are you gonna use that on? Raiden? Yeah, no. So yeah, that's why Emblem Severed Fate, yada yada yada. You can use Emblem Severed Fate on literally anyone who uses their Elemental Burst. Now, supports often have interaction from off the field, which makes the team with 4 characters interacting together way stronger than a single character. Now, the thing is that hypercarries can limit their interactions because they have like weird restrictions. For example, someone like Chao, he plunges a lot, which means that characters that buff normal attacks or whatnot, they do not benefit Shao at all. Like, Xingqiu will not proc off plunge attacks, etc., etc. Ganyu has charge shots, which means, why am I using Xingqiu again? Yeah. Ganyu using charge attacks, charge shots, does not count as normal attack, does not proc Xingqiu, or does not even proc Yelan. Yoimiya, pure single target, which is hypothetically fine, but then you realize that like when there's 2 enemies, your damage requirement literally doubles, so it's like yuck. If there's like 6 characters, if there's 6 enemies on the field, oh god. Eula, physical damage restriction, disgusting, and a extremely backloaded single hit. Let's hope you don't miss that crit. Ito, yeah, of course. He's Geo. Geo's not good. Charge attack. Mihoyo could have made Yunjin work with Ito, and that would have been like, that would be okay. Like, I don't know what like degree it would have been good, but charge attack. There's some characters that can use charge attack, and it's like, oh, let me use Yunjin to buff like what's her name? Hu Tao. But no, Lamau. Yeah, let me limit Yunjin to normal attacks only. So supports are often way more valued because, well, damage isn't really special. because the goal of hypercarries is to deal damage and nothing else. But support support brings utility and enables damage, which is often a greater power ceiling than like raw number output. Like basically, utility is hard to replace without pure power creep. Like if you think about it, damage is purely numbers and it can be fine-tuned to be in line with other hypercarries, but are power crept when another character can output more numbers. Like think about it. If you make one character do 10,000 damage per second, you can make another character do 10,000 damage per second, or you can make them do 11,000 damage per second, or you maybe 10,500 damage per second. It's very easy to like just adjust the numbers and make a character intentionally weaker over time. And over time, there's going to be characters and team comps that instead of doing 10k damage per second, it'll do 15, it'll do 20k, 30k. You get the point. It's very easy to power creep numbers, but something like utility, like how do you power creep Xingqiu? You have to make Xingqiu purely better. It's not like Xingqiu's like damage reduction. It's not like, okay, we're gonna power creep Xingqiu. Let's make this new Hydra character give 35% damage reduction, and it's like the Xingqiu is still gonna have use unless you're gonna have like 60% damage reduction, maybe even 80, 90. Yeah, like how are you gonna power creep Nahida? Are you gonna give a Dendro character like incredible amounts of Dendro application, like zero ICD? Basically, good utility stays good, but good damage dealers don't. Like the supports that can be slotted into other teams is always a better investment, as you don't have to spend resources for a new character that you have to replace. Spending resources on dedicated archetypal characters is not that great when you have to move to a new archetype that's not supported by them. Like Kazuha is infinitely gonna be way better than like someone like Sara or something, because like you can use them literally anywhere else, but Sara's locked into Electro. And do you want characters that have been power crept by damage? Hold on, let me go check. Let me go check real quick. The characters I can think off the top. Diluc, Lamau. I don't think Klee was good at the start. Ganyu, especially Shao. I don't know about Hu Tao. Ito. Yeah, you get the point. There's a lot of characters that have been like purely. Oh wait, even Sino, but like Sino's a dead end. Holy crap! But yeah, there's a lot of characters that can be easily power crept by damage. People thought Diluc was good, and then but because Diluc didn't really do anything outside of damage, he got easily power crept. Like if you look at someone like what how do you make a good hyper carry? Well, you make a hyper carry that does anything more than damage. If you look at Raiden's a good example of a perfect hyper carry. She does a lot of damage, but even if she doesn't do as much damage compared to other characters, she still brings something to the table. She brings elemental burst damage. She brings off-field electro application, and she also brings energy generation when she takes the field and bursts. So that's something to think about when using someone like Raiden. But if you look at someone like Yoimiya, like what's Yoimiya gonna give to the team? Like not really anything outside of damage. Like sure she can melt for like 30k. Wait, maybe 50k. She can melt for like 50, 60k. But like, hey, come on. There's gonna be a character that's eventually gonna do like. Like elemental reactions that do like that much, but like way more consistent plus AoE. So yeah, that's gonna be it for me. I know this probably it's not as good because I've been having kind of a hard time trying to figure out why like hypercarriers are bad, because I know they're bad, but it's very hard to put into words, and especially like why supports are good, because I don't want to like I don't it's kind of hard to explain why supports are good, but yeah, always invest in supports because I've always found that every time I invest in like non-support and basically hyper carries, I immediately dumpster them. I'll hate them. Xiao, Hu Tao. I think those are the only hyper carries I've basically tried to do, but like they've been like mid as fuck. I mean, even like characters like Wander or Scaramouche, Sino, Ito, whatever. You get the point. I've already mentioned a bunch of hyper carries, but yeah. Hopefully I can put out a video where I talk about why I think playing meta is fun. Uh, although I've been very yeah. This video was supposed to come out like a month ago, but I've just been lazy and busy. But yeah, hope to catch you in the next video where I hopefully use Beyblades to explain why I like to play meta. And yeah, see y'all later. Bye. Holy skill issue. Holy skill issue. Oh my. Wait, I'm so bad. I'm so bad. I'm so bad. I'm so bad. Oh my